Well, good morning, everyone. It's Gerald Porschman here, and welcome back. I'm the De-Escalation coach, and hopefully today we won't be doing too much de-escalating. I've got a great guest who I would like to introduce you to. His name is Paul Burgess, and just recently, Paul and I reconnected, and he sent me a paper on 3D leadership and said, hey, G-Man, how about you have a look at this and tell me what your thoughts are. So, look, I want to jump into this because when it comes to leadership, we can sit here all day and you've got your views on what makes a great leader. I have my views about what makes a great leader, but we certainly know what doesn't make a great leader. And whether you bring up all your values and attributes and whether you bring up a whole lot of, different sort of characteristics about a leader, none of that can matter unless we got the right formula. Now, do I have the right formula? I don't. Does Paul have the right formula? I don't know. We're about to talk to him about it. So I want to bring Paul on. So, Paul, welcome.
How are we going?
Mate, I'm doing extremely well. I think maybe to start off, why did you want to do this?
Yeah, look, it's a really good question. There's probably two reasons why. One is that you can sit in your room, you can write things, you can come up with all sorts of brilliant ideas, and they're in your head. Until you start talking about them, you don't really get the ability to flesh out what's real, what's not real, what do you really think about certain things. So that's part of it. Been sitting here getting asked questions, that's really what I guess the crux of it is. The other, I've always wanted, since I was very young, to be a person who makes a difference to somebody else. And part of that process is being able to, I guess, get my view of the world out, but also to be able to say, hey, this is where I want to go and this is what I want to do to help people. To do that, I have to learn.
Yeah.
And that's a big key part.
Look, and what I want to do is that maybe I'll take a step back a little bit because a lot of this is going to reflect on me as to, when we talk about leadership.
Yeah.
Do you have children?
4 girls.
Right, so you're a leader already.
Some would say not, but yes, let's.
Well, I guess, and not to jest too much about it. If your kids are in jail, you're not a very good leader.
Yeah.
But, I will get a lot of people that will say, well, hang on a minute, it's society that has pushed them in that way. But you've got to have always someone in that, maybe in the, not so much, I won't say control, but in the directional part that says, hey, you're doing wrong, we need to move you in another direction. But if your kids are thriving, and may I ask what age group your girls are in?
So 17, 16, 14 and 11.
Well, you didn't muck around, did you?
Well, no. And but Beck and I had, Rebecca's my wife, we had children later.
Right.
So it got to us, I was 36, I think, 35, 36. I met Beck and she was 30. And she hadn't wanted to have children before and decided, look, I'm getting older. If we're going to do it, we're doing it now. Yeah. Like, can I say, I said 2. I put my foot down at 2, and we can see where that landed me.
Now we've, clearly 4 and 4 girls.
4 girls.
There's a lot of estrogen in your house.
There is.
So would I be remiss in saying that you have a better understanding of the emotional side of the way that people operate, having had 4 children, and also having had 4 girls, that we know that there is a massive difference between men and women, and we're not going to get into the gender ideology part of this, but we know there is a massive difference between the way that women grow and the way that men grow. What has it taught you?
First and foremost, that I don't know everything, I think is a really big key. It was so obviously you go into parenting not knowing anything. And I remember bringing my first daughter home. We for the first time put her in a cot, and the wife and I stood back and went, "What are we going to do now?
Yeah,
what do we do? No, there's no manual. You make it up as you go. Hope to God you do it the right way. And you impart positively. Yeah. What I have learned is when the moment I think, I've got it worked out now. I know the system. I know what's going on. They change it. Yeah. So for me, that was a great learning curve, and that's something that, bringing into a leadership view, is about the idea that it's not one size fits all, and it's not one size fits all the time. So it's an important part to look at when you're looking at teenage girls in particular. Teenage years are tough. Yeah. Your hormones are going.
Yeah.
Where do I fit in the world? Who am I? Those big questions. And you ask at a time when probably you're not as best suited to answer the questions.
Look,
So,
it's interesting you say that, because I'm now just reflecting on what you're saying is that, you've brought a child into the world and no manual's given to you to say, how do we... But there's lots of books.
Oh, yes.
Isn't there? There's a lot of experts out there that will tell
plenty
you...
of people tell you what to do.
Yeah, and they're not even experts. They will
Correct.
be family members. They'll be the shopkeeper down the road.
Correct.
They'll give you every piece of advice, apart from the advice that you might be looking to. Now, I'm gonna move that, what you just said there, into a leadership role.
Yep.
So you now have an employee, a staff member,
Yep.
a co-worker, who now you're responsible to help grow. So if we look at the child, you're responsible to help that person grow and ensure that they, become an adult.
Yep.
In the best possible way. So now we have a look at a staff member who's been brought into your remit.
Yep.
And there's no manual.
Correct.
There's no manual at all, but you now have been tasked with ensuring that this person performs.
Yep.
That this person follows the guidelines.
Yep.
That this person maybe follows direction. And already those three things, the person who performs doesn't perform.
Yep.
The person who doesn't want any direction. They just want to be left alone.
Yep.
So what I want to do is that I want you to start with your viewpoint on why this is so important for you. And of course, we go back to why did you want to do this, which the answer may be evident in a moment. But why is this so important that you've come with this model of 3D leadership, which we need to get into what that actually means?
Yeah, for sure.
So why is this really important for you?
So for me personally, when I was looking at how do I make a difference, I really wanted to make a difference. And I think even pieces in the paper I talk about first line responders and how much of a difference, pulling someone from a burning building, that makes a massive difference to someone's life, right? And you can see the result of it. As an accountant or a manager, I looked at it and went, there's no way I can make any of those kind of differences in someone's life. And I didn't accept that. So what I wanted to do was make a difference in someone's life. Now that means, for me, it's what they need, not what I need. And I think if we bring it back to those employees, if you bring it back to the person in the burning building, I need them to be over in this room so I can go to that room and pull them out, but they're over here, right? So it's not what I need, it's what they need, right? So I go in, I pull them out, they get oxygen, they live. So if you take that to a workplace and you take it to someone who says, look, I don't know you, you've just been put in this position to tell me what to do, but I don't know you, I don't trust you, we don't know each other, there's no interconnection there. Why should I do anything that you say? My first response, my first view is to find out who is this person. And in that process, I give a little bit of me. And I think that a lot of the ways that I do things are not overnight fixes. They don't happen today, but they happen over time when people feel that there's consistency and that I'm genuine and authentic about it. So when I find out about someone, what is it that you want? What is it that you want to do? Yeah, look, the reality of life is we have to get this result. The company is paying you money to get this result, to do this job. We have to do that, right? But what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? And if you don't want to be, a good thing to think of is that ambition should never, ever be mixed with high performing. All right, so they're two separate things completely. You can be a high performer without being ambitious. And I think that's important to note. My brother-in-law, for example, Brendan, he works for Michelin and he's got a team there, looks after a team of salespeople. And I hope I get that right. And one of the things that he talks about is the idea that he's got to set up a succession plan. And in that, he's to find somebody who might work in that as someone who can succeed in his position when he moves on. That person's not interested, but they're the high performer. So it's good to know, what do people really want to do? And part of that conversation that he had with his employee was around, this is what I see for you, but what do you see for you? And he said, look, I've looked at your job, I see what you do, and I don't want that. So it's an interesting thought. I've also had people say that to me. Paul, I want your job. It looks great. You know, if you want my job, please come and have it. I'll give it to you. Not a problem, right?
I have a few thoughts running in
Yep.
my mind from
Yep.
what you were saying. So one of the things that I think is really pressing, and again, I'm going to relate maybe children because they're young, and it's our ability to help them grow into functioning adults. Is you now have your idea of what is it that you want, and if I was to think about, I'm now joining your team.
Yep.
And what I want is that I want to be left alone.
Yep.
I want you to give me the tasks that I have to do.
Yep.
I don't want you to micromanage me.
Yep.
I want to hit the results.
Yep.
I want to be able to show that I'm a part of the team. But I also want 3 days off. And I want to get full pay.
Yep.
And I want to be able to still sustain my life.
Yep.
By any way.
Sounds awesome.
It does sound awesome. But what I'll say to you is that I'll say, hey, Paul, you being my lead, who I go to, I can achieve all that in 3 days, and so you should pay me for 3 days for a 5-day week, because this is the world that we're living in now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that people are demanding more for less.
Yep.
And I guess we will uncover this in your 3D model.
Yes.
And why I relate this so much to children is a child at a very young age is they may say, I want to go to school dressed as Batman.
Yep.
And you can go, well, the school doesn't allow us to go, and the kid chucks a bit of a tantrum and says, well, I should be able to, because Dad, you've always said to me that I want to go. I should be able to be my own individual self. Why can't I go as Batman? And you go, well, there's rules that the school won't allow us to do that. And then the kid gets upset. So now your kids are older.
Yes.
Your kids will be watching this and go, hey, I agree with what Gerald says, because I don't want to go to work anymore. I don't want to go to school anymore. I don't want to have to do this, but I'm still going to achieve the results. And Dad, you're going to pay for that. So that's my little synopsis of talking to a person who says, what is it that you want?
Yes.
Now, if you ask me that, what is it that I want? And I tell you, does that now mean that our relationship between leader and, I hate the word subordinate, but leader and
team member,
does that now go, Paul has this idea that Gerald's just lazy?
Yeah.
Is that what happens? So how do you respond to something like that?
So if I can start with my girls, one of the things that's been massively challenging for me, but also in this sphere, is when my girls, 3 of the 4, are neurodivergent. Right? And for full disclosure, I am as well, but I found out at 55 rather than 16, right? So, but they're neurodivergent. And my second eldest, Grace, who's going to be watching this, she told me she would, the way that she communicates is not always the way you think communication is done. So it's about understanding not just the words that are being said, but what is being said. So someone who wants to be left alone, as a classic example. Like I might have a teenage girl comes in, it's the worst day in the history of days because someone didn't talk to me or whatever. But I just want to be left alone. I just want to go and do my thing. Right? At the end of the day, they will do that for a little bit. And then they want interaction. Yeah. So people want to connect. It's an absolute need for them to connect. And we can do a little bit of role play. How about we do that?
Yeah,
do you want to do role play?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Day 1, you start. Gerald, welcome. Thanks for coming today. Awesome. End of day 1. Gerald, just thanks for your efforts today. Day 2, beginning of day 2. Gerald, it's Tuesday. Well done, mate. Thanks for coming in. End of day 2. We say, mate, again, thanks for today. It's been awesome. Day 3. Gerald, how you going, mate? How's the job going? And it'll be good, bad, indifferent. I just want to be left alone. No worries, mate, at all. Look, you just keep going. Well done. End of day 3. Mate, thanks today. Effort was awesome. We get to Friday. Friday morning, we've done. Mate, we've got to Friday. Thanks for coming in. I really appreciate it. End of the, mate, you've done a great job this week. I really appreciate your efforts this week. Well done. Now, I haven't said anything about the job. I haven't said anything about anything. But at the end of that time, that person's going to do one of two things. They're going to look at me and go, this bloke's full of shit, and I'm going to keep testing this bloke until I find it and I can prove it.
Yeah.
Or maybe this is different. Maybe this is a different place. Maybe what I've experienced in my life hasn't been the right things, and maybe this is the right thing. No, I don't know. I haven't done anything. We haven't even had a conversation. All I've done is set up some parameters for an environment.
Yes.
Right? And the environment is about effort.
Yes.
It's not about result. It's about effort.
It's look, and I love that little role play, and I kept silent throughout that because I just wanted to hear how it would play out.
Yep.
One of the things that I think is really pressing is this word consistency.
Yep.
So you've now started that on day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. But I've now got a 5-year tenure with you, and I'm going to catch you out.
Yeah.
I'm going to go, hey, this was all fun and games right from the beginning. Paul was a fantastic leader at the beginning, and now all of a sudden he's starting to see that there may be, I've not changed, that I'm still the same, but you're not getting the response that you're after. You're not getting the, wow, why doesn't Gerald communicate a little bit more? I would love him to get into a meeting and put some effort in there.
Yeah.
So although I'm giving you my effort, which is, this is my baseline, which is I'm not going to communicate, but you want more from me, it seems like it's not what I want, it's what the leader wants.
Yeah.
Is that the issue? Is that what's happening?
So absolutely. Look, and I think that when we get into the 3D model, there is an equal, what would you call it, focus on the leader, the team member, and the environment.
Yeah.
If it's about what I want, then I can just come in and tell you what to do. Because do I care if you're happy or not? You're just doing what I want. But if I want you to do more, and I go, let's go to the control paradox, which is something I'm adding in, so we can talk a bit more about that. But the control paradox is this: if I want to control you, and I exert control over you, you won't do what I want. If I want you to do X, and I help you to realize that you want to do X, and you do it, then I have controlled you without controlling you. So there's a control paradox. Yeah. The difference is that I know that I've imparted some positivity to you. You've decided, made a choice to do this thing, and therefore it's more valuable for me, it's more valuable for you, it's more valuable for the organisation. And that is the point of the 3D leadership, is not to say necessarily a how of what you do, but a why of what you do.
Yeah. Which is great, and we've heard a lot about that. It's not the what, it's not the how, it's the why. Why are we doing? My opening question is, why do you want to do this? Yeah. Not how do you want to do this? Well, how do you want to do this? I do all the talking and
that's right.
What's going on here?
Yeah, that's right.
So let's get into, because one of the things I think you've mentioned on a few occasions now is that you wanted to make a difference.
Yes.
And I like that, mad. It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, it feels like it at times.
Let's make a difference.
Yeah.
Break it down for me.
Yeah.
Because I've read your paper.
Yeah.
And I think we communicated, and I gave you some feedback with my thoughts. But let's break it down. 3D leadership. What is it? Make it easy for me.
So, in very, very simple terms, it's about including an environment in the leader team member circle. So we've got a trinity here, if you like. These three things are really important, and they're really important because outside of the environment, the leader and the team member are not role specific. Anybody can be a leader. Everybody's a leader. Everybody's a team member. So it's about, I might manage a team, but I learn from that team as much as they learn from me. And again, it's this idea of that control paradox, right? Where I make a difference to you because I teach you through interaction how to fish. I don't fish for you and give you one. That kind of view. if I set up an environment and set up a process where you are imparting to me, I'm imparting to you, you will choose to go and do X. Right? Or, I guess that probably the best way to look at it is that I feel like I have now made a difference in your life because I've helped you realize what you can do and what the potential is. Now, that might be a 25-year stint. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, right? But it's about those little wins along the way.
Yeah.
And I can honestly say through my career, probably about 95% of the people that I've worked with, I've been able to make a difference with.
Well, that's always, that's a great testament to yourself. And I think, how do we find out if a person is a good leader? It's never up to the leader to say, I'm a good leader because of these characteristics and attributes. It's what happens down the track.
Yeah.
I've always had this thought that, how do you know if you're a good leader? Well, if you leave the position that you're in and you move somewhere else, and then you have a team member that comes up to you when you're in this other spot and says, hey, Paul, I love the way that you were operating in the last place that we're at. If there's ever an opportunity that I can get to work with you again, I'd love to have that opportunity. So that's how I think you can maybe find a good leader. Now, you mentioned, which intrigued me, you said anybody could become a leader.
Yes.
I mean, you're right, anyone. But I don't think we defined the word leader. There should have been a word before that. Like, anyone can become a leader. Hitler was a leader. Kim Jong-un is a leader. We've got Mussolini.
And they all made differences in people's lives, right?
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Were they good leaders? Were they effective leaders? And if you have a look at, any one of those, were they effective in achieving the goal that they wanted to achieve, and they had willing followers? Yes. They had people who would willingly follow that regime. Yep. But we're not looking for that.
No.
Hopefully we're not looking for that leader.
Definitely not.
Yeah,
definitely not. The control paradox.
We're not looking for that level. So tell me, because you said, the 3D thing is about having the leader and having the team member, and we're cohabitating. We're working together to achieve that goal. But when you talk about your 3D leadership, I need more explanation. I need a breakdown of D1, D2, and D3. So help me out with that one.
Good start with dimension 1.
Yep.
I remember years and years and years ago, I had a manager who would always say, if I could only put my head on your shoulders. Right? And it devalued everything that I thought, that devalued it, and basically said, I'm the only one that knows what's going on here. I'm the only one that's able to give you any insight, any thoughts, any of those kind of things, right? My opinion is the only one that matters. When I think of, you go to these management type or leadership sessions, and they think about the worst manager you've ever had. They're, for me, they're the worst managers I've ever had. It's my way or the highway. You just do it this way. When I look at a second dimension leader, it is a first dimension leader, but the responsibility for the ethos, this responsibility for that mindset is given to somebody else. I've got this mentor who says it's this way, and this mentor's infallible because they've done a thing, and therefore we can't even question it, do it this way, right? So you've got that two point view. Moving to the 3D leadership, now the difference is basically in the things that you brought up in the feedback, which was really good, which is around be yourself. And part of that is, if I'm going to lead somebody, I need to understand who I am. And in that space, understand that I don't know what I don't know. Yeah. Part of why I'm here. What don't I know? And there's lots of stuff, right? So for me, a good leader is someone who is learning about themselves, about how to do this better. And I think when you bring up regimes and you bring up that kind of thing, one of the stark things that's missing from that is the leader learning. They're set in a rigid belief system. They're set in a rigid thinking system. And that comes back to that control paradox again. It has to, my world is out of my control. I can't have, so I need to move everything of my world into my control. And that's part of that rigid thinking. And I think that when I wrote about Be Yourself, and I'm not sure if you've had a look at what I've rewritten on that.
I have, yeah.
It challenged me a bit, because my view is be yourself, be authentic. Great. What an awesome thing to think about. But then you bring into that, well, if I'm myself and I say things like, you accept me or away you go, there's no interaction in that. That's a rigid thinking prospect. And you've seen yourself some of the results of that kind of thinking. And that's really a first dimension thinking, which is me. It's all about me. And I'm right. And if I'm wrong, just refer back to the previous statement, right?
Yeah. I think where the difficulty lies is that comment that you say around, be yourself. I'm sure there is a pub Paul, there's a family Paul, there's a work Paul.
Yeah.
So are you being yourself in all three of those areas? So I'm hoping that if you and I go to the pub, you don't talk to me like this. I hope we don't sit down and you're trying to tell me about 3D leadership. But on the same token, if I'm working with you, you don't now go and tell me about, how your big night in the pub was, and then continue on about how that brought it into the family. So the idea of about being yourself, I think, this is my personal opinion, I think that's the worst advice you could give someone. Only because if you were to say, Gerald, be yourself, I go, great. Great.
Let me a tie and
Let me give you a great example of that. There's this. I think it's a little skit, and there's an interviewer who's asking a person. They say, "Give me your great traits," and they say, "Oh, well, my great traits is I'm a good listener. I like to finish tasks. I have goals in mind." And they go, "That's really good. What are your pitfalls?" And the person turns around and says, "My pitfalls is I think I'm too honest sometimes." And the interviewer turns around, she says, I don't think that's a pitfall. And the person turns around and says, "I don't give a shit what you think." So
perfect.
In that way there is that I'm being honest, I'm being my authentic self. Yeah. And now all of a sudden, because I said that I'm going to be honest, and then that person turns around and says, "I don't think that's a pitfall," as soon as I reflect back and say what it is in my honest opinion, I'm now devalued. It's now like, well, we don't like that. That honesty we don't like.
Yes.
The honesty we were thinking of is that you're an open book, is that, you don't hide things from us. So a silly little skit.
But it's a good point.
But it makes sense, to me.
Absolutely.
So here's what I'm thinking, Paul. I'm thinking there's got to be some pitfalls when you come up with a model like this.
Yes.
So what, in your experience, do you find that has maybe somewhere where you maybe need to change the sails and hit a different direction? Have you got any ideas on that?
Yeah, look, I think that 100% that when it's presented in the most positive way I can. The 3D leadership model. There are people who will not join. They just will not join. Right? And that's why I think I've had 95% has had a good outcome. And I believe that's a good outcome for people, not necessarily just for me. Because some people have had a good outcome and have left my team. Have gone somewhere else, right? And that, what they want to do is great. Right? I've got no problem with that. I think where you've got people that have been either so hurt or so burnt, or they just do not like... you've got cultural things, right? Where they say, I just want to be told what to do. I just want you to tell me task A, B, C. Having working with neurodivergent kids, my second daughter's autistic, it's a very literal world. You can't use sarcasm. You can't use anecdotes and stuff like that. You do X, Y, and Z. And that's fine because that's where they are. And I think one of the things about Be Yourself for me that's really powerful is that it's not about be all of you all of the time. It's about be the authentic you in that situation. So you're right. I've got a different face at work. I've got a different face at home, at down the pub. I talk about very, very different things and that kind of thing. But when I am doing it, I'm trying to be, trying is the wrong word. I'm being as honest with myself as I am with the people that I'm with. And I think that's important. There are rules in a workplace that don't apply in a pub. And things that I would say in a pub that I might not say in a workplace. Language you might use at a pub you don't use in a workplace that people find offensive. And that puts people off, right? And that's not the point. The point here is to make a difference, is to make an environment where people can be the best they can be at that workplace. Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to get across as be yourself. And I'm really happy that you fed back that to me. Because in my mind, I'd be myself. That's what I see. Yeah. That's not what I communicated. So it was good to have that so I can delve into those things a lot more.
So help me out a little bit here, because I think, your response was valid. And, anyone that would be listening to this would say, yeah, well, come on, Gerald, no one's going to be there, be that at work. But you do see it.
Yeah, 100%.
You do see it. Now, I'm working at the moment, closely with an organisation where there's lots of turnover.
Yep.
And both of the leaders will speak to me about, I don't know why they're leaving. I don't know. I'm giving them everything that they require. I'm giving them their PPE. I'm giving them their time off. They've got compassionate leave. They've got carers leave. What more can I do? I pay them extremely well. So these are like engineers. So they're getting paid extremely well, but I don't know why they are leaving. Yep. And the question that I would ask, is that, well, have you ever sat down with them and asked them? Great question. It's, hey, why are you leaving? But then in my thinking is that if it's only just today on their exit interview that you're asking, why are you leaving? There's the problem.
100%.
There's the problem. I mean, we should be asking not, are you thinking of leaving? We don't ask those questions, but how are you going? What are some of the pitfalls in the job? Is there anything that I can do to help you provide yourself with achieving the better goals? So in your experience, you've clearly had people leave where you're working. Yep. We're not going to make any secret of that. No one's perfect. No. They're not going to stay with you for 25, 30 years.
It's the truth, right? So I wouldn't...
It's truth. Yep. So in your viewpoint, and because I couldn't find this anywhere in the 3D leadership, is that I want to know, maybe from your perspective, what are some of the reasons that you think people are just checking out and leaving?
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many factors in life, I guess, that feed into this. And I think that when we brought up a little bit before about be yourself at work is different to being down the pub and those kind of things. There are environments that you do really well in. One of the analogies I did here was about farmers. They plant a crop, and that crop doesn't go so well. So they don't go and smash the crop down. They change the soil. They put a bit more water in, put a bit less water in. They do something in the environment. So if I go ahead and I like the idea of sitting down with someone and asking the question. I just think that's such an underutilized view of any manager leader in business. Sitting there, but not at the exit interview, not when you see there's a problem, but just because you can when you do. I try and make it, it's hard. I've got 20 people in the team. It's hard to do it daily, right? But I try as often as I can to have a conversation with someone. And one of the team members, for example, when I first started, you get told all sorts of stuff. When I first got, don't worry about him. He's useless. He's barely doing what he can do. He's barely able to do what he's doing now. So we don't give him anything. We just put him up, push him along. And I went, I don't believe that's true. Right? Now, it may be true. I just didn't believe it was true because I didn't know. Sat down and had a conversation. Really nice guy, very smart, had a lot of knowledge, but no one had sat down with him before and asked a question. And that's now starting to happen more and more, and he's coming out more and more. And I think in those circumstances, people who would have ordinarily left a workplace will stay. But there's many, many different reasons. And I know that people have had problems with me personally, right? And you don't leave a job, you leave a manager, right? Yeah. But it's the reasons why you leave that manager. Did they leave me because I was not a very good manager at the time? That's a possibility, because I'm not going to sit here and say that what I've done is perfect and I'm the best manager in the world and therefore people don't leave because they don't like me. That's not true, because they have done in the past. I've even fired people for doing the wrong thing, because there's certain things you can't walk past. But I think that for me, the reason I'm trying to be a good leader or I'm working on these things is because I'm trying to learn, because I'm going through a journey myself.
Yeah.
And that journey means that if I've had someone leave my workplace because of me, then what do I learn out of that? How do I get that? But it's not because I've learnt it at an exit interview. It's because we've had discussions all the way along.
It's great, that little comment that you made about the behaviour. You know, sometimes you have to remove that person because of what it is that they did. And there's the old adage of, you know, the behaviour that you walk past is the behaviour that you accept. You know, whether it's good or bad, it's just like we accept that. And if it's good behaviour, you know, you accept it and you go, well, that was really good. But I wonder what the feedback is. You know, hey, Jill, I just saw you on the phone talking to that customer. I noticed you got a little bit heated, but then you self-regulated, you know, and you brought that conversation down. Well done on that. You know, it's just probably turn around and go, this is what I do every day. But that small acknowledgement, isn't it? That makes a 100%. Massive part. So
very valuable.
Very. So help me out with this one here. Now we got a brand new staff member who's just you've had somebody that's left the team, and you need to replace that person, and that person is brand new. Now I want to ask you that the leader who's now listening to this as an example will say, I've got a brand new person. Everything's going well on the team. The last person that left got a better job somewhere because they're working now overseas. No fault of mine or the organisation. We're bringing in a brand new person, this baby that we've got in. I don't know their background, their history, or you may know a little bit. I don't know how they operate. I don't know what they like, what they dislike. So start me off. Give me a blueprint on that leader introducing a brand new person. How's their first week look, apart from the little role play that we did? Give me a blueprint of what it is that they should be doing within the first week, the first month, the first 3 months of their probation. Give me a brief idea, and it may help some people.
So we talk about culture, and we talk about culture a lot, and I think culture itself has as many definitions as leadership, right? So what is culture, kind of thing. So if we narrow it down to a really broad view of what the expectations in the workplace are, what things happen, is culture. So when a new person starts, it's, again, the role play is a very good example. So it's like, great, you're here. Thanks for turning up. I really appreciate it. We're going to introduce to the team. The team will automatically, subconsciously, this is our culture. You know, so I've been at places where my very first day I've sat down and someone said to me, look, I know you've come from, like, particularly now I'm a GOC, right? So I've come from commercial to semi-government.
So better explain GOC to me.
Oh, yeah, government-owned corporation.
Okay.
As close to government as you can get. So come from there. So my first sit down, and one of the first conversations is, look, things that happen out there, they don't happen as quickly here. You won't get as much stuff. Don't try and work as hard. You know, those kind of... So that sets me up day one for what the culture is in that business. And I think that if you've got a new team member and they turn up and you know, what's the team like, you know, and they're asking team members, what's the leader like? And you go, oh, he's good, because you can go and ask him a question. As a matter of fact, if he says something wrong, you can go and tell him he said something wrong, and he'll take it on board. I mean, that kind of view, again, consistency. Right. So I've said to my team, who have been, some of them have been there 15, 20 years, some 30 years, right? If you want to feedback to me, please do. And I said, don't believe me. I don't want you to believe me. I want you to test me. Come and test me. If you want to feedback, then let's do it. So I had a team member who fed back that they feel undervalued. So now we're going to sit down. We're going to go through, what does value mean to this person, and work on how we can support that. So test me, let me come through for you, and then we can see what that culture turns into. So if I'm a new person, day one, and I get it, and here's the team, and they go, look, here, this is about, you can go anywhere, you can do anything. We have a bit of fun in this team. We're honest with each other. That already sets up that expectation up front. When it comes to the job, the job most times is hard and fast. I've hired you because you're an expert in this. And my view, in my very first conversation with a person, I always say, I've hired you to do the job, I expect you to do the job, right? But I'm going to support you and remove all the barriers that's going to stop you doing that job. And that's the kind of relationship we want to build. And then you start the consistency. And then you start the same face every day, which is my face. So I don't have to put something on, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But it is work Paul. But work Paul is real Paul. It's just a facet of Paul.
I
like to talk myself in the third person.
No, it's good. But I know what you're saying here. Sometimes when we do, little, podcasts like this, and you'll get back, you'll sit at home and you'll watch this back, and you'll probably watch it with your kids, and your wife, your partner will look at this also and go, Paul, you didn't tell him about the most important aspect of this whole 3D, which was. Because you'll go, I don't know what happened. I should have said that. So while I'm speaking, I want you to think about, is there something that I'm missing that really is the key to this 3D leadership that you go, yeah, of course. We haven't even touched on this. Is there something that I might be missing or you may have missed just in our general conversation?
Look, again, something that doesn't come straight to mind, right? But making a difference is such a big thing for me.
Yeah.
As an accountant, how do you make a difference? As a manager, how do you make a difference? Giving back to somebody and allowing them the opportunity to discover something about themselves is massive. And I think that there's probably that this interaction for me is about me discovering a bit of me. What we're doing right now.
Yeah.
So this is how I want to impart into the workplace, how I want to make a difference to someone's life, to say, how far could you go? What can you do? When you sit down with someone first and you ask that question, what would you like to do? I mean, you probably asked the question a million times. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I think, what a stupid question.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I see myself filthy rich living on an island, and I shouldn't use the word island.
No,
that's
right. Yeah. I'll leave that one out.
Yeah, that's right. But where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, I really don't know. But if you sit down and say, what do you want now? What do you want? Most people won't be able to answer you.
Yeah.
Because they've not been asked a question, they've not thought about it. So spend some time, work out these things. And you work on something that someone will come up with and go, look, I really want to do this. And it's got nothing to do with my job right now. It's like, okay, let's explore. What does that mean? How do you do? So that's made a difference in that person's life, even if it's only a fraction of a difference.
Yeah.
Might not have been pulling them out of a burning building, but you've started something. Oh, well, they call it sowing a seed.
Yeah.
Right? And that then builds. And I may never see any of that. I may just see this fraction of something that started somewhere. And that's great.
It's interesting that while I'm listening to you, one of the things that I did say right in the beginning in my opening was that we've reconnected. Now, I've known you 15 years, 17 years?
Yeah, too many. Too
many.
So, a long time, yeah.
But you're in a different industry.
Yep.
Okay, we won't mention the industry, but for me, it was an industry that was going through a lot of changes. I think they deregulated. I think if I'm right, they... anyone can make out what that is. It's either going to be in the...
Restructured at some point, right?
Restructure at some point. I think that's it.
Yeah.
And I guess people make their own decisions about, no, I liked it the old way.
Yeah.
I'm this sort of a person. I like that security, but now we're going this way, so we're getting rid of this arm of it.
Yeah.
May I ask, what was the main reason that you left? Was there an opportunity where you are now in a GOC? I think that's what it is.
GOC,
government-owned corporation.
Yeah.
Did you see opportunity in the role that you're in now, but you didn't see opportunity where you were? Because this makes a great impact.
Yeah.
This makes for some people, I'm going nowhere. I'm just going to be doing this for the rest of my life. But I can see I'll take a sideward, even a backward step. I'm going to move here. What was the reason that you moved?
So it was a twofold for me. Now here I am. I'm a leader in a business, and I'm working through these 3D model processes without knowing that's what it was called at the time. And I'm working for someone who believes the exact opposite of me, who is a one-dimensional leader, who is do it my way. to the point where I think the old CEO I work with said to me once, I don't know what you do, but I'd like to tell you how to do it.
Wow.
Right? So you kind of go, okay, I'm not sure how that works, but we'll work with it. And I lived under that view for 2 years. And I said to myself, whilst I feel like I am making a difference with some people in this workplace, this is not the environment for me. So I was moving, looking for that environment where I could be me. And that's where this came up with the GOC. I said, that's an environment, because it was a new role. It was a greenfield role. And that's part of my remit anyway, go into a greenfield, make a difference, set up pieces and all that kind of thing. To do those kind of things that I've done in my career, you can't do them without people. And that's why this thing becomes such an important thing. But for me, I was in the wrong environment and I wasn't growing. Because I wasn't growing, time for me to look for a place where I could grow.
If you were to go back to the old role that you had, do you think, based on the things that you've learnt now in this new role, do you think you could bring that in to the organisation, or would they still be, I don't know what it is that you do, but I'm going to tell you how to do it? Do you think that attitude still sticks with some of those people, or do you think they may have grown up now?
No, it's definitely stick. Right. It's definitely part of them. And it comes from a place of fear.
Yes.
Right? I don't know what you do, but I'm supposed to be your manager, therefore I'm supposed to know. So if I tell you to do some things, at least I've got control over that. Control paradox we'll go back to again. So it's a fear for them. And if I can go back to my view of growth, right? If you're rigid, you're a one-dimensional leader and you're rigid in your thinking, this is the only way it can happen, I am right. And then you go and find out you're wrong and you go, wow, let's go back to the original statement. At that point, there's nothing that can be done from a growth perspective. Now, when I look back, I think, could there be other things I could have done in that environment? Yes, 100%. 100%. Part of my learning was, how do you deal with that kind of environment and still create the kind of environment you want to live in, you want to be a part of, that positive growth environment. And absolutely, there are things I did wrong and there are things that I could have done better. And I think that learning from that, where I am now, talking to you right now, I'm learning as I go. And I think that for me, the leaders that I look to, that I think are people that I would want to model that kind of conceptual thinking, are people that are always going, teach me. I just want to know. I cannot get enough information. I cannot get enough knowledge to then work with and then go out. Even things that I know that I have a belief that I know very, very well. I want to challenge that belief. And I want to say, do I know anything about this stuff?
Yeah.
Let's go out and ask someone. Let's get a good idea.
It's interesting you bring all that up. I think one of the things we always want to do is that we want to leave back a bit of a legacy. You know, and there's this. I've heard this person say, within a generation, nobody will know who you are.
Yep.
You know, or maybe 2 generations. So
you got a tombstone somewhere, and that's it.
Yeah, you got the tombstone, and if anybody happens to walk past that, well, good luck to them.
Yeah.
But this brings me to 2 things I want to ask as we slowly start to wrap this up. Is there a legacy that you want to leave behind? And in my head, you've mentioned the word make a difference a couple of times, and I think that's going to be one of the legacies, making a difference. But maybe there's something else. So, but the second question that I'll ask, and it'll give you time to reflect as you're speaking. Can you do that? Can you do 2 things at once? Can you actually speak and think about another answer?
Well, yeah.
Could be part of our neurodivergent
correct.
Thinking about that.
If I start thinking about this, I may stop talking about that.
But you can use it. You can utilize it both ways.
Yeah.
So here's what I want to do. I want you to think about what is the legacy that you want to leave behind.
Yeah.
And I'm going to walk past, or maybe not me, but in future there are going to be people that will walk past your tombstone on your epitaph, and they're going to read something on there. What is it that you want written on your tombstone? If you're going to have a tombstone, let's just assume you're going to have a tombstone. Okay, you might be cremated or you may put your body into a freezing mode and come back in 500 years. I don't know.
So, my girls have set a cardboard box that they can bury somewhere. So perfect.
Easy. So 2 questions there.
Yeah.
What is the legacy that Paul Burgess wants to leave behind? And also what's going to be written on your wonderful little tombstone?
So first of all, tombstone. What I'd love to have on there is he did not go into the good night quietly. So that's, for me, is a really important thing. If anyone's going to remember me, they're going to remember me for being annoyingly persistent. Right? And I think that if I look at legacy, successful legacy for me would be anyone that I've touched has paid it forward and they've touched somebody else. So for me, that's a really important thing for me to leave with people.
Well, don't go yet.
No.
Don't go yet. You got plenty of time. You're still young. You're
of course.
Hell of a lot younger than what I am. So, see, frog in my mouth. Is there a question that I haven't asked you that you're thinking, I wish you'd ask me this question, because it's burning in the back of my brain. Is there anything that you would like to add on that's going to wrap this up so we've got everything covered?
Yeah, look, I'm not sure. I think some of the questions you've asked me have challenged me already, which is great, and some of those thoughts. I think a friend of mine asked me about why in the 3D model itself there's not a bigger scope to capture all those pessimists in the world. He actually thinks he's a pessimist himself, but he gives me a lot of good positive feedback, right? Which is interesting. And I think that question itself is an interesting one. Why is it that I'm always looking for a positive? Why am I always looking to inject some value instead of just... And let's face it, it'd be a lot easier if I just went to work, did my job and went home. And retired at the end of it and lived on a caravan and traveled around Australia. Look at all great stuff, right? But for me, I have this burning desire to help, to make a difference. So for me, I cannot stop trying to make a difference. I think the hardest thing for me is looking at my daughters and thinking, am I making a positive? Because to be yourself at home. If they were here and they were being interviewed, there might be a different Paul that they would say is there, or Dad in this case. So for me, it's about how do I get those values into them? Sometimes I think I talk and they don't listen, but all kids listen.
Yeah, you talk. Yeah, sometimes you talk and they don't listen. What's that? Hello, darkness, my old friend. I think there's a line in there that says, people hearing without listening. I think that's valuable, isn't it?
Yes.
Paul, I want to. There's going to be people who will watch this, and then they'll go, you haven't even got anywhere. Like, I'm looking at this. There's nowhere that I can contact Paul. So if they wanted to contact you and then give you some feedback and go, I agree with this, please. I don't agree with this. How do they get in contact with you? Like LinkedIn, is that the best thing to do?
Yeah, actually, probably would be. If they jump on there and just show me a message or something, that'd be awesome. Absolutely awesome. And I'd love it. Yeah. I'd absolutely encourage any feedback. Yeah. Because no feedback is wrong. Yeah. It's probably more useful than not useful at times, but I don't listen to everything, but I take on board all of those points. And I look and I research them and I look at them and say, how can I translate this into Paul? Well, I think we've gone like way over time. Look, feels like 2 minutes we've been here. It does. It does. But I want to thank you, and I always from me, I wish everyone the best of their success, whichever direction they're going. And if it doesn't pan out for some people, it just doesn't pan out. Yeah. But it's look to your leader, and look to a person who you can have a mentorship with. Oh, absolutely. And have a protege. I think they're really important. So I thank you for spending the time with me. Yeah, excellent. And thanks for having me. Well, mate, you barged in. He barged in here. Sat down and we're on. Got me a coffee and I wanted a whiskey. I got a coffee instead. Paul, thanks very much, eh? No, I appreciate it. Thank you. And thanks for the feedback. It's been really good. Yeah. Have a good one. Thank you.